So I highly recommend both of those things. And I think that was all that I wanted to talk about before we get into the video. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this case was suggested to me by the Baron of Belko. Hi, I hope you're doing well and that you're feeling better. So this before all of this, he was like a very clean cut kid. He was kind of preppy, in a way that didn't really fit in with his peers. He was also really into computers, which was kind of obviously it was a new thing in the 80s. And he was like very smart, very intelligent. But like I said, one of his friends said he started to change in subtle ways, and then in 1984, or no, I'm sorry, the year before he died, he grew his hair out and he was dressing differently and things like that, which still, honestly, to me, seems pretty normal for a 17-year-old boy. I went through some stages when I was a teenager too. said